Hey, it's D. It's a brand new episode coming right for you, right on the FTO network. Enjoy.
I'm Anton Sixxx of the Chessy Controller podcast.
You know, this is weird not doing this without a video recording this time. It's going to be...
Right. I'll figure that out soon. I got some things in the works to make sure.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Look at this guy, scheming. I like it. We are doing a brand new episode, like in a new studio. What do you call this studio? You got a name for this studio?
Radic Records.
Radic Records. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be tagged. Make sure you guys check that out also. I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about today. I know like you are a big fan of the Nintendo Direct that came out this week.
Yep. The Nintendo Direct, the State of Play, and I got a SteamDeck this weekend. I got it Wednesday, and we recorded Cheesy Wednesday night. Now I've had a few days to play around with it. I got a micro SD card for it, so I was able to put a lot more on it. I found a new game that is just like complete. This game, something about it is just so addictive. I played unintentionally Vampire Survivor. And it's like a $3 game on Steam. I actually saw a story today that the information about its 1.0 release is coming sometime this week. So its early access is on like version 0.11 or something like that right now. And I played almost 3 hours last night without even realizing it.
What kind of game is this?
It is a like top-down like survival game, but you don't control any of your attacks. You just get upgrades and you control your movement.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm looking at the gameplay on here right now. Like you're mostly just controlling specs, mostly.
Well, yeah, and that's you control your movement completely. So if there are enemies that are like have a flashing effect on them that are harder to kill that drop upgrades, and there's a blue bar at the top, so every enemy you kill drops a crystal, and then the crystal is like your experience points, and every time you level up you can either get a new attribute, you can upgrade something you already have, and
you're hooked. You're into it.
Yeah, I had heard about it, and in concept it sounded alright, but like in actual practice it was way better than I was expecting it to be. It was... I sat down to, try it out, and play a little bit, my first run was like a couple minutes long.
This is nuts. I just found an article from Eurogamer that says like the SteamDeck most played game in August is Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, and I mean for $3, like you really can't beat that. $3 for a game. I've spent way more than $3 on games that I've enjoyed way less than I'm enjoying this. So
hey man, that's less than a burger at McDonald's. So you know what, you can't get angry about that.
Right.
But first off, when this thing came in, Radic here, he definitely like gave a praise towards like the almighty Steam Deck. I'm waiting until I put my hands on it before I get any kind of praise to it. But like you
I mean, we're in person. I can hand it to you right now. You can.
You're killing me. Ooh, this feels nice.
Yeah, and like
it's light.
Yeah. It's heavier than you expect. It's just the ergonomics of it. Like when you're holding it like a controller, you can it melts away in a way that the Switch never really does necessarily for me.
Okay.
Like whenever I'm playing my Switch handheld, it's usually for something like Pokemon or even rarely Monster Hunter. Like I have to be going somewhere that I know other people are bringing their Switches and will have Monster Hunter to like take it to play Monster Hunter. But as far as like, I've only really been playing that around the house, and it just, the size, shape, and just general feel of it for me is really good, and the games that I'm able to throw on there and have run really well are really surprising.
I'm gonna ask a ridiculous question right now. I'm on it. I'm exploring this. I see that Google Chrome is on here. What I know like this is like part of the least most interesting thing to ask, but what is the interface with the browser like on there?
So it has a desktop mode, and actually, so like through USB-C, it's essentially a Linux laptop. So if you switch to the desktop mode, it's a full desktop mode. You have your taskbar, but it's Linux based, and I mean, it's touchscreen and its controls are pretty intuitive as far as all of those things go. So like if you were to want to, so far I haven't been. It's just been games so far for me.
No, I get
like
it.
in actual games through Steam. I know there are a lot more capabilities as far as like streaming. Like I want to get it set up to where I can stream my PlayStation to it and just play whatever I'm currently playing on PlayStation and just stream it to that.
This is nice.
Yeah.
I can get used to this. And like no one can find this right now, right? Like you can't like go out and just go buy one of these bad boys.
No, so the way the process works right now is you put a $5 deposit down through Steam.
Okay.
And so I put down a $5 deposit in May. And just now getting it this week, they sent me a notification last Thursday. They said, you got 48 hours. Either you pay for the rest of it or we go to the next person in line. God. And I mean, I knew that's how the process would be because through following podcasts, like the industry has been picking these things up, and like I've just been hearing so many good things about it.
You sent me that video from Marcus Brownlee, and like he was going crazy just talking about that. Yeah.
The thing is, the software's improved, the compatibility's improved. All of those things that I sent you were probably around the like April-May period where like review units are going out, but now like the past few months, hearing almost every week, like a podcast I'm listening to, somebody gets a SteamDeck in and just like whatever they're trying to play. It's super, so out the box, my Steam library is just here. Like I logged in, connected to my Wi-Fi, and was able to just go immediately. And like all the things I immediately thought of, like, ooh, I wonder how this would play on handheld. I wonder how, like Monster Hunter Rise runs way better on this than it does on Switch. And you know, like Monster Hunter is one of my favorite games, like favorite modern games.
As we all know,
yeah. So, and I mean, you see I have the Final Fantasy 14 trial version on here, but that like even so it says it's not compatible, but the interesting thing is it's a PC. So anything you can go in and run, like I have a bunch of ROMs and ISOs of like Game Boy and PSP games that I own. Nuts. And I go in and I didn't do it correctly because I was trying to do it with the on-screen keyboard and the touch screen, where if I were to plug this into like a USB like hub and get a mouse and keyboard and everything going with it, I would have been able to really set it up.
This is gonna change the game. It really is. Like I can feel that. Like this is gonna stick around for a good while, for a hot minute, for sure.
The good thing about it is it's super repairable. It is like they have tutorials. Like it's a officially supported iFixit thing. So a lot of times with these like handheld PC sort of like situations, you're if you've ever had a Linux laptop before in your life, you know you're kind of out there in open waters on your own. Like you're not in the best spot.
Radic is not in his head. Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. Like this runs Ubuntu, and if you know what Ubuntu means, like
I remember that.
You've been out there in the open waters, and
but
at least with this, considering it's a mass-produced product and it's like getting out there, the SteamDeck like forums, there are things you're not supposed to be able to do on this that you just straight up can. And it doesn't feel restricted like PlayStation or Switch or anything. Like all of those are powerful hardware, but they're really restricted. You can only play what they approve you play on those systems, essentially.
Everything you're telling me, it sounds like Android got their work cut out for them. It's like Android is going to be screwed in the next couple of years with something like this being out there.
Well, I mean, Android, all the handheld Android gaming things that I've seen so far, with everything moving towards streaming or running it locally and having powerful hardware behind it, Android just doesn't seem to get the hardware powerful enough to put, because like, did you ever get a chance to play Sayonara Wild Hearts?
No, I didn't. But no, I didn't get a chance to play that. But someone in the room apparently did.
Oh yeah, it's one of those games that I recommend. Like, if you get a chance to play it, play it. Like it shows a lot of what games can do. It shows like really kind of opens up your perspective in gaming because even gamers haven't necessarily, like, a lot of gamers would write it off because it's a smaller game, but some of the things it does as far as like music and like level design and characters and just, I think it's a really good experience. And I mean, it's short enough. It's in the like same category as like Journey and like some of those smaller games that it's a certain kind of focus that they put more care and more time into the idea they're trying to convey versus building out the rest of the game. So like it's not an open world AAA like high action big budget. It's not that, but it is really focused on what it's trying to do and the story it's trying to tell and like the way to use the mechanics to convey that in the best way possible.
See, I hear the composure in your voice. I hear like how calm you are about all this. Like, you know, I hear it. But you're hyping this up. You really are. And it justifiably so. You're hyping it up like in the right way possible because this is not only going to change like the way we see gaming, it's going to change like the culture of gaming also. Like those who don't see themselves as gamer who have spent a lot of time on Nintendos, because I'm sure you can put like Netflix and other streaming devices on there too, right? It's a straight up PC.
Yeah.
Correct? So, yeah.
So, like, Chrome is just Chrome. Like, I haven't logged into my Gmail account on it yet, but I logged into Discord and I was able to just, like, plug my headset in and open up a Discord call on it.
Just go right at it, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, that's going to change things. Definitely. That is a game changer. I've been watching Cyberpunk Edge Runners. And like, you know, see, he gets it. And and like I'm thinking about this right here, man. Like, yeah, like walk around with something like this that's not a Switch. And I gotta tell you, like I'm here for something different because me being like an old school gamer who has not had a console because they're what $500 a pop and
yeah, like, and I mean
and like $60 for a game, like dude.
And I mean this is $400, so this is more expensive than the Switch. This isn't really, but it's cheaper than a PlayStation,
and there's more functionality inside of it too, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, I feel like you have to have the motivation. Like this isn't necessarily a computer stand-in for people. Like this is for people who have a Steam library, who know like what you can get through Steam and going through that method, and just kind of, I wouldn't say, you know, get a kid this and have this be their first like gaming thing, but I also wouldn't say like the general consumer would get this and get a lot of the use that someone who's more technical like I am and who's more into the nitty gritty. And like one of the first things, there were games that before I even had this, I was like, oh, I'm going to play this on here.
But you can get like a dock like you have like for your Switch and connect it to your television, correct?
Well, the official dock's not out. There are USB-C docks that are currently out, and there's actually a couple companies that have started up as like that are small.
That's how it starts, man.
Yeah.
So, and you can get like it's Bluetooth also, correct? So you can put a controller attached to it. Dude, that's all you need. Like I get what you're saying. Like there's like a lot of ins and outs, but they're gonna streamline that. Yeah. They're gonna streamline they're gonna streamline Steam to make it more functionality for folks who just want to hop on, download a game, and hop off.
Well, that's the thing. The fact that it is Steam on like a global level,
right?
Steam is more ubiquitous than anything else. Like especially when you look at like Japanese games, like Capcom had last year said that they are now their lead platform is PC. Because how well Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and Resident Evil 3 Remake, and then Monster Hunter World.
People went well for,
like the amount of new players that came into Capcom games because they were available through Steam. Like, there was a friend I made during the PS3 generation on like a PSP forum. And he switched over to PC because just in Trinidad, like, PC components are easier to come by than dedicated hardware, like dedicated gaming hardware. So
that's also where most like indie gamers go too, right? Is this Steam?
Well, I mean, anybody who's playing on PC for the most part prefers Steam. Like there are certain like small sects, like the Blizzard crowd, all their stuff's on Battle.net, which isn't on Steam. Fortnite, like the Epic Games Store. There's a way to get the Epic Games Store to run on here, but the Epic Games Store, there are games that I have there that I can't play on here yet because they're not through Steam.
That's wild, man. Like, I hear everything you're saying, and like for me, a person who's been around for almost 40 years, like, you know, so like the ins and outs of not only the 80s, 90s, and early 2000 gaming, like what I see right now from what you're telling me is that this is gonna move everything else off the table, like the comic book movies, the anime, all this stuff, like the indie game cons. It's going to be the new thing in 10 years. Like, people will be talking about that kind of stuff, like, in the forefront.
We've kind of moved through the waves with that, where we saw a lot of small indie studios come up around the Xbox 360 generation. We saw games like Bastion. We saw games like Super Meat Boy. We saw, like, a lot of these small indie games.
Right.
And the thing with those is the studio that made Bastion, Supergiant Games, just continued to grow off the success of that, and now like is almost borderline a AAA studio. Like they made Hades, and while people were like talking about Hades, like Humble Beginnings back on the Xbox 360 are now like major like tentpole studios now. So we're getting into the cycle of it not just being your Activisions, your Ubisoft, your EAs.
You gotta work to like a big developer if you're a small game to get your name out there. That's what you're saying, right?
Well, no, like a lot of these small developers now have the avenues to put their games.
They don't have to have those anymore.
Right, and so it's just like a really good place. Like you saw, like I'm looking at going into gaming like on the development side. And
the Steam is going to be the best way to go about that now. That's going to be like the best forefront for anyone, especially like the indie gamers who told their friends about stuff like this. And like, if it's on the shelves, you just grab it and go, man.
Yeah, and I mean it'll be really interesting to see because the way they're rolling it out is because of like the chip shortages and like a lot of the like supply constraints that every industry is dealing with. So the way they're rolling it out makes sense for that, but like presumably by the time the SteamDeck 2 is out and like the supply constraints are lifted and you can actually walk into a store and find anything, because these days like you might find a Switch, you might find an Xbox Series S, but you
can't find a PlayStation.
Right, you can't find the PlayStation. You probably won't find an Xbox Series X and a SteamDeck. Like, it'll be interesting to see when they get it to the point that they have it in stores, something like this, because that's the thing. Steam has so many free games. Steam has solidified itself in the PC landscape for so long and has made itself so big and so feature rich. Like they just kind of, and as a matter of fact, so they did big picture mode, which was like probably like 5-7 years back, where Steam, you hook a controller up to your PC, hit big picture mode, and it becomes like a console interface.
Wicked.
And this is like a better version of big picture mode, and it's going to be actually interesting to see them transferring what they learned from making an actual console, because this is like, it's a PC, but it's definitely a console. It fits in the console space. It's more comparable to my Switch than even my PlayStation, because I don't necessarily have to sit down like at my desk in my chair, like kind of assume the gaming position to play this.
But the gaming and functionality is comparable to a PlayStation or an Xbox, right?
Well, yeah, it's
I can't wait for the memes. I can't wait for the memes of this to come out. I cannot. Like, the memes are gonna go crazy. Like, people don't like, what's your console? PC, Xbox, or PlayStation? No, it's gonna be this. It's definitely gonna be this. Like, you hooked me on to like a few podcasts that talked about gaming. I listened to like kind of funny games. Listen to those guys. Listen to you guys, of course, and like and other like news outlets I see through articles. But I have not heard anyone talking about like the future of something like this, like becoming to popularity. I guess like because it's so new and people like are worried about how it may or may not look. But like we talked about the pros, we talked about like the expandable hard drive, we talked about that is all like Linux based, we talked about that is essentially a PC in a console form that you can walk around with the functionality attached to it. Are there any cons that you see in this already?
So far, because I got the 64 gig, the baseline one. I can imagine the people that got the 512 gig one.
Because they're like almost $1,000, right?
Huh?
They're almost $1,000, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have that kind of money to be throwing around. But for me, like, it has the slower storage, so every once in a while, it's not as snappy as my PlayStation. Okay. But I mean, for what it is, because I did my research, like, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew this wasn't necessarily going to be the, like, it is a high quality niche product is how I see it.
Okay.
Whereas my PlayStation is a high quality mainstream product. So the downside is some of these older games that just have compatibility problems will probably never be fixed by the developers. So, like, as far as going back in the back catalog, there's a lot more tinkering. Like, if I buy a game on the PlayStation Store and I press go on the home screen of my PlayStation, it's going to work. I'm guaranteed that.
Right.
On this, if I download some, like, third-party game launcher and just, like, mess with it and do whatever, like, I have to do to get it working, there's the work that it takes to get it working, and then B, there's the fact that I'm not guaranteed every game that I buy, even through Steam on here, I can press go and it'll work.
Okay.
So that's the downside.
That's a big con. Yeah, I see that. But like I do feel like with that con and the other con that you said also, like with it not being as functional with the storage space being so low, like, first off, like, more people buying it, it's going to change that in a couple of years.
Well, yeah, and it's expandable.
Right.
So, like, it's not even the same problem as, like, certain other things where you're not necessarily getting a way to expand it. Like, the PlayStation, you can expand. The Switch, you can expand.
Right.
The Xbox, you have to use their proprietary storage, but you're capable
of doing so.
Of expanding. So, this is good that you can expand, but, like, an iPhone, you can't expand.
And like the second part of that is like with social media being what it does, when you find these developers, you go to their Instagram or Twitter pages, you let them know about the X, Y, and Z problem. It like that's just gonna turn into like a whole Yelp type situation. It's like when there is like a game that's out there or a game that's old that people don't know about, but developers are still around, like those old games may come back and be on Steam also. That could also be a possibility, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean that's one of the interesting thing about Steam is the catalog is just the PC catalog. Like there are certain
fucking nuts. Like I'm sorry. Like I'm a big picture kind of guy, and I can see like the big picture on this, man. Like this is like you told me about this. I was like, okay, it's like some PC games on a Switch type format, but like what you're telling me right now, everything you're saying to me right now, this is huge.
Yeah, and I mean so. The biggest game of this year, arguably, is Elden Ring.
Right.
You can, right now, buy Elden Ring, play the entirety of Elden Ring at a, like, locked 60 frames per second at a resolution that's good, like, so it'll, like, the SteamDeck runs on Proton,
gotcha.
Which Proton is essentially the emulation layer between Linux that emulates PC. So a lot of these games can run. So that's the whole Steam OS. Like they've been working on Steam OS, and Steam OS is something you could deploy to computers for years at this point. But the interesting thing is just, yeah, you when you look at the big picture and you see just how much content you're capable of putting onto this thing, like. I think it'd be a good fit for someone like you.
I think it would be too, man. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking about. So, like, you spend like $400 on this. Mm-hmm. You already have like the Steam catalog attached to it, and like Ragnarok. I'm sure like eventually Ragnarok will be a part of something like this, right?
God of War 2018 is just on Steam. Spider-Man 2016. It's just on
the
Steam.
face he's making, like you spent $400, like you already got the games you want to play, dude. Like that's it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, what I'll do, I'll bring up my Steam wish list and I'll just go through it because it's kind of just this.
Show me your favorites. Like, show me your favorites that are on your wish list right now.
So, I gotta bring it up.
This is crazy. Like hearing this, like this is right up my alley, man. Like I want to get back in the game, but I'm telling you right now, like both of you, I am not going on consoles. Like it's like they change up every 5 years. They're not compatible with each other. Like I gotta listen to trolls the entire time. Like when I go online and do something, like I don't.
Well, see, we don't deal with trolls because we have our group of friends that are like, it's a group of like-minded individuals that we get together to have fun, and it just so happens that PlayStation's a lot more popular with the people we play with than anything else. And I mean, crossplay has blurred those lines, and Discord integration officially came to Xbox this week. So now all you have to do is on your phone, when you open up Discord, if you have the Xbox app on your phone, it'll let you link your Discord account and your Microsoft account.
I wonder why that is. Like I say we're from Microsoft simply because the trolls are all over it.
Well, I don't.
Here we go.
I get being in the like public, but like I've been a podcaster for years. Like I kind of put myself out there in the gaming space. And I don't think necessarily, like, if you feed the trolls, you'll have to deal with the trolls. But in my opinion, I don't necessarily, like, we're a group of young black men in Atlanta trying to, like, do a gaming podcast. Like, that's bait for, like, you know, like, those corners of the internet. The people who had a problem with The Little Mermaid would probably have a problem with us. So...
I do not disagree with you. Not one bit.
And so, in my opinion, about stuff like that, like, the trolls, the highest concentration will be on PC, but the reason you won't deal with them is the same reason we don't deal with them on PlayStation, or I've never really dealt with them on even Xbox, is because I don't join the general voice chat of whatever game I'm playing.
I get that.
Like, I play Call of Duty almost every year. I'm not going into the lobby chat for Call of Duty. I'm in a lobby with me, Radic, and a few other friends who, like Radic and I, will be playing Call of Duty together so we can communicate and we can have our call-outs and we can enjoy our game that we paid to play and without any of that. Like, I'm not paying to be called a racial slur.
Nope.
So
not at all. Like I'm not here for it. That was sounds like my early days in YouTube. That's all I got was N-word this, N-word that. So I am definitely good with, like, without having that in my life. But like this sounds like the future, man. It really does. Like I listened to Marcus Brownlee talk about this, and he did not talk it as hypeful as you are giving it to me right now. But I see. But the future
he's not a gamer.
No,
that's the thing.
He's more of a tech guy.
He's a tech reviewer. And, like, when he reviews even gaming stuff, you'll realize, like, one of the things he showcased on here was Among Us. Among Us can run on whatever, anything, anywhere. Like, I'm out here testing the Halo Infinite multiplayer stuff. I'm like, but the stuff that appeals to me, even when it is AAA, big budget, like Spider-Man, God of War, Uncharted, Horizon Zero Dawn, like all these big PlayStation titles, but also Halo, Gears, Forza, all of these are available on Steam. Like, if you think about it,
PlayStation, that's fucking.
Well, I mean, they're getting paid because the thing is, PlayStation puts out their games, lets them have their shelf life on console when they stop really selling, and some of these games, well, most of the games that are available from PlayStation on PC have been given away for free on PlayStation at some point before. So like Horizon, God of War, Days Gone, all of these
eventually
games,
they are,
right. But then after that point where they've gotten all the money they could possibly get out of it on their own platform, they put it on PC as a full price thing, and that's a whole new audience, and that's millions of players that are just, oh, Spider-Man, I heard that game was really good, like, but I didn't have a PlayStation. So I'm going to, oh, it's on Steam. Oh, it's the winter sale. This game's like 50% off.
Right.
I'll grab this up.
Right.
And so, Microsoft does it day and day, but Microsoft also, like, they have their Game Pass PC launcher, and, like, there are a lot more facets to it the way Xbox does it. But, I mean, Steam, like, they're not screwed because God of War made them however million sales on PlayStation, and then now that God of War is out on Steam, it's continually making more and more millions of sales because everybody who is into PC gaming, that... Like, we all understand that, like, PCs are way more ubiquitous than, like, gaming consoles.
I feel like that's how you're going about this part in the conversation, too. It's more like big business, millions of dollars, microtransactions, transactions in general. I'm going at more of a SoundCloud, like, aspect with this whole thing. Like, I want to see more, like, the indie games flourish and, like, show themselves. Like, hearing, like, talking with Radic before you showed up about, like, how he does, like, some intro music for games and other artists and things like that. I feel like this is gonna change that whole spectrum, man. Like all that's gonna be changed around pretty soon because of this thing. That's nuts. Like it's already like doing a thing right now, but like smaller places who don't have like the funding to put themselves out there. Like you went to Unity a couple of weeks ago, and like you and other folks who went there to like seminars. Like we're gonna probably send their stuff on here pretty damn soon.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's it's coming out in Japan soon, and Tokyo Game Show is going on right now.
Woo!
And they have a Valve Steam Deck lounge at TGS where you just walk in, grab a Steam Deck off the shelf. They have them lined up with like what games they have installed, and like I listen to the 8-4 Play podcast, and they're like English-speaking Japanese developers. And like so hearing them talk about it when they got it, and they're like, oh yeah, I was working on like a localization for this game, and I just like threw it on the Steam Deck, because that's the thing, it's not just Steam applications, it's whatever applications you can get to run.
Pause for a second. So they had a game they were developing and just tossed it on Steam.
Well, it was a work in progress build that they were doing the translation for and the localization. So let's say it's a big JRPG like Dragon Quest. Instead of you sitting like at a desk, like going line by line and like having the game running in a functioning build of the game with the text that you were responsible, or even the voices that you're responsible for localizing, they are able to throw those working builds of those games onto something like the Steam Deck and run those games. Like development, I could definitely see like as I get further and further into development, instead of it being something that I gotta show you, like I have to have my computer, I can throw the build on here, and this is a great way to test it on actual gaming hardware.
The indie devs who have a Kickstarter are gonna be going nuts for this. The indie devs who are looking for voice workers, voice actors, like music composers, like this. The Kickstarter. If you're an indie developer and you got a Kickstarter right now, like you might want to get yourself one of these Steam Decks and start talking to people, because like you get it, man. This is it. This is. I wasn't expecting to have this kind of conversation coming here today. I'm not kidding you. Like I wasn't expecting to have like a conversation to have my mind blown, but that's exactly what just happened. I thought like you're gonna talk about like some Steam stuff, talk about Nintendo Direct. And like that was gonna be like the whole show. Like the whole show is called Steam. Like so, just letting you guys know that's the name. That's the episode podcast name.
Well, one of the things
that's cool, man. That's really cool.
I do want to talk about the Nintendo Direct, because one of my most anticipated games, a game that for people who've been following me have heard me yelling about on the internet for like over 5 years at this point.
There's so many of those.
Well, no, this was like bread and butter, day one, like first podcast I was on, like first time, like when I would be invited to other podcasts and people would ask me what's a game that needs a remake or a remaster.
All right, the suspense is killing me. What is
it?
For
years, Crisis Core. Yep.
Okay. He was mouthing it.
Yeah. It's been years of me on the internet, like as a personality, saying, like, everybody's like, oh, we need a Final Fantasy VII remake. I'm like, in all honesty, Crisis Core is a more modern and better playing game than the original Final Fantasy VII.
You literally talked about that a few weeks ago on your own podcast. Yeah.
So, during the Nintendo Direct, we got a date for it. December 13th. It's officially coming.
There it is.
I'm getting it day one on PlayStation. Over time, it's available on Xbox, Switch, and Steam. Like, it's on my Steam wish list. So, like, I see a sale come across. Crisis Core is 90% off for the winter sale or something like that.
Bro, that's nuts.
I'm going to have to, like, jump on it. So... That, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, the sequel to it, we now finally have a title and a release date.
I heard.
It's coming May 12th, 2023, Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild is one of my all-time favorite, like, experiences in gaming. Like, the things they did for open world games. The only other game that I can say did as much for the open world genre as Breath of the Wild did is Elden Ring, especially in a modern sense.
That's a heavy comparison.
Well, I mean, for Elden Ring to be compared to Zelda, because Zelda...
did he just stop me? Hey, easy there, buddy. Show some respect.
I mean...
No, I'm listening to you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Open world games are a dime a dozen. Like, you can... Anywhere you throw a stone in the games industry, any kind of aesthetic you want, any kind of time period you want, any kind of protagonist, like if you want to create a character, there are open world, like we're inundated with open world games.
And like that game, Breath of the Wild, came out like when you were an adolescent, like teen, probably high school?
No, Breath of the Wild was what, 2016, 2017?
Was it?
Yeah.
Am I getting it mixed up with something else? I have to be getting it mixed up with something else. Oh, we're getting a fact checker.
Yeah, I want to say it was either late or 2017, March 2017. I knew it was March because the Switch came out in March, but yeah.
I must be thinking of Wind Waker. That must be what I'm thinking about.
Wind Waker was GameCube. And
that has to be what I'm thinking, yeah.
But for this, and there's a lot of Wind Waker that you see in Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Like, they took a lot of the cell shaded and the, like, more stylized character designs.
2002.
Yeah, for Wind Waker. Yeah,
see, that'll be why.
I was in like second grade for that one.
that'd be the comparison I'm trying to make that I shouldn't be making. Gotcha. All right, yeah. So anything else at the Nintendo Direct that really caught your eye?
There was a Fist of the North Star fitness boxing game that just looked hilarious and like, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
A boxing game?
Yeah, so it's fitness boxing where you use the Joy-Cons on the Switch and you do boxing, and it's like a series of, there have been a few different fitness boxing games, and so the interesting thing with how they're doing it now is it's Fist of the North Star themed. So you're the main character from Fist of the North Star doing like boxing motions for exercise.
This is hilarious. I know a comic book creator who's in the Georgia area. He does Midnight Comics. Name's Lloyd. So that's his favorite anime, and he is currently back in the gym right now. So this is probably right up his alley. I'm gonna have to send that to him.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't necessarily. That's one of those games where you don't necessarily need to play the game itself to get the It's kind of it'll be a video that you can watch the game and play the game.
And have some fun with it. Exactly. That's cool. Was there a lot to take away from the Nintendo Direct, or was it just like a few games here and there?
Well, I mean, they started off with the new Fire Emblem, which I'm not the biggest Fire Emblem fan, but I have a lot of respect for this franchise.
There was a trailer for it, wasn't there? Was there a trailer for that?
Yeah, because it's coming soon, surprisingly. Right. I think it's January or February, Fire Emblem Engage, which is like the next mainline Fire Emblem.
Wacky.
And I know a lot of people are really into Fire Emblem. There was the Tears of the Kingdom, which I think is Nintendo's biggest upcoming game. There's also...
Not familiar with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, that's the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Okay. That's coming out. It didn't have a name. It was just called the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for a while. I
haven't had one alcoholic beverage either. All right. Jeez, man. I'll get better. I swear. That's why you're here. To help me out with all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean...
man, if I could take a pause for a second, gaming has gotten so saturated with taking money from fans, so it took me out of the game for doing it, and like you talking about this deck here is just, it's giving me hope for getting back into games, dude.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the things like positive and negative that have gone on in the games industry, people will vote with their wallets.
Yeah.
People will make their statements on what they will buy, what they will play, what they will tolerate with what they spend their money on.
Look at EA.
EA is going through a lot of issues because for a long time they had their single player side of things, and they had the things like Dead Space, and they had like FIFA. Mirror's Edge. Well, I mean, FIFA and the Madden and like all the annualized stuff is on one side, and like that is a cash cow of its own. Like I don't buy FIFA. I don't buy Madden.
They lost the rights to use like the soccer names. I'm getting at. Yeah.
Well,
that's a big deal.
It is, and it also isn't, because it's going to be EA Sports FC, and they have the rights to all the players and everything.
Oh.
So they just can't call themselves the FIFA name.
Gotcha.
But the FIFA name, because of like issues with the organization itself, has lost a lot of cachet.
Oof.
FIFA players are like, I think FIFA 22 or 23 is the last they're going to be able to use the FIFA name, but I guarantee EA will spend millions making sure that they keep all those FIFA players on that game next year. Like, they're not... I know EA is not going to fumble that bag. So, like, it is a big deal, and FIFA, the organization, is talking about working with whoever, and so there's going to be another game out there called FIFA. But the EA version of that...
They're going to hold on to it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because they're still going to keep making a soccer/football game every year, and it's going to be the best-selling game in Europe.
It's EA.
Every year for the rest of time. Like, they're not going to let that escape them. Like, I saw a lot of concern about that, and people are like, oh, well, like, if your grandma goes to buy you a game and is confused... No. EA will make sure that...
I don't think I've heard anyone say that, but I like the way you put it.
I mean,
you get loose when you get alcohol inside you. I like it.
Well, so like that's the thing. I've been standing in a GameStop and seen like, oh, I want to get my nephew the Mario game.
Okay.
And like just telling that to somebody in a GameStop, like a GameStop employee is like, okay,
which one?
Right. But if you want to get your kid the FIFA game, even though it's not called FIFA anymore, the GameStop employees that's like the GameStop, like 2K,
right.
Madden, anything. Even if all these franchises completely lost their names today and then released a new version tomorrow with whatever their new name is, you will not be in a position, like, these companies are so big and these franchises are so important to them. It's like the same way when Bungie left Microsoft and went with Activision. They spent millions on making sure that people knew that Destiny was from the creators of Halo.
Right. Yeah.
That's like...
Yeah.
The same way, like, right now... We know that Star Wars is coming from the same people that are making the Marvel movies. And that's just... And it's going to be the same thing. So...
We've had this conversation. We've never had it this way before. We had this conversation before. But I can see why you're so adamant about that, because they have forced it down your throat in that way. Like this is a Marvel game, not a Sony game. No, I get you.
Yeah. And I mean, so that's the thing. Like, these companies are going to make sure... that you know what, like, how to spend your money on their product. Like, that, a lot of times, like, things will change, like, money will change hands, studios will change hands, like, a lot of stuff gets really, like, mixed up in the games industry. Like, IPs go with developers sometimes, don't go with developers sometimes. Like, I have... at least 10 examples for like every, like, a studio starts, doesn't get a game out, closes, a studio starts, gets a game out, gets really big, becomes a publisher, can't really manage the games they're publishing. Like, just every scenario you could think of like a start to a finished product in the game, I've seen it happen.
Sega is a big like tell a story of what you're saying right now, most definitely.
And so, yeah, I think gaming, and I mean that's why I'm so enthusiastic about gaming, is because it's something I've grown up with. It's something that, like, for a long time I thought all this knowledge that I had on this subject was just useless. Like,
wrong.
I've had times of like, why do I know this? This is just garbage information in my brain. So
definitely not.
That's how I came to love podcasting as a podcaster, is because all this information is just helping me build and helping me make a stronger product, not just of myself, but like of all this knowledge I've gotten over time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I will say I do think like that mindset you just put out there is like how podcasting got its birth, though. You know, like having like the knowledge of certain things and wanting to talk about it with certain people who don't understand what you're talking about and putting it out there. It's definitely like, you know, how all that came to be. But we definitely gotta get you at a panel at a video game convention, dude. We gotta get that to happen.
Yeah, that's the kind of environment, because I know a lot of times with gamers, like, it's kind of like an introverted mindset. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like while gaming for me is like a social thing, because I'm playing with my friends and I'm talking to people and I'm like thinking about it in the context of having a conversation online and like a lot of these different things, like, I'm like extroverted. Like, I am willing to go out and meet new people, shake hands, talk to people, and like share.
You drove an hour to go to a Unity like seminar. So
yeah. I mean, that I don't like driving. Like, I wish I want a Tesla just simply because
it's self-drive.
Yes. If I could just hit the button and get to where I need to be and like take out the effort, like,
I'm good to go.
Doesn't matter if it's a cinder block. Like, Tesla is the only one doing it, but like if I could have a hoopty that I get in and hit the button,
that's all that matters.
Right.
I can definitely tell like that's kind of what drew us together, talking to each other. You say you listen to my podcast, talking about like TV shows, movies, and some games. Like, you know, you see that same drive in me. Like,
right, and you're a lot more knowledgeable than me as far as comics. It's like, because I don't really keep up with comics, and you have a lot more context when it comes to these like pop culture things. And I mean, you've been around a lot longer.
My bread and butter, man.
Yeah, and so like for me, like listening to your show and like the Mega Man Battle Network thing came up and you're like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, nah, man, I gotta, like, you're really knowledgeable on that end. I gotta come in and like help you out on the gaming side.
I had no idea what I was talking about with the game. Like, you know, is it like Speed Racer? I don't know. I don't know what this is, because this is like what, maybe the 75th Mega Man game to come out? Like, I had no idea. And I still don't know, to be honest with you. Like, Mega Man was never really my wheelhouse, to be honest with you.
Well, this is an the Mega Man Battle Network games, because we actually got some more information about those over TGS.
Really?
Yeah, because it's one of Capcom's big. So, Capcom, about once a year for the past few years, has been putting out a Mega Man collection. They did the Mega Man Collection 1, which was like Mega Man 1 through 5, and then they did Collection 2, which was like 6 through 10. And then they did the X Collection and the ZX Advent Collection. So, like, all the different Mega Man sub-series that all have their own audience. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of, like, traditional Mega Man. But for me, as a kid, I watched the Mega Man Anti-Warrior anime. And that was...
I mean, that's my go-to. Like, that, like, in the original, like, 90s X-Men cartoon show. But, yeah, that's my thing.
So, Mega Man Anti-Warrior, the design for that Mega Man, which you know is different than Mega Man or even Mega Man Zero or Mega Man X, like, they all have the different looks. That was Mega Man EXE. And so the Mega Man Anti-Warriors Battle Network games were Mega Man EXE in an isometric card-based strategy role-playing game.
As you're saying it, it's starting to come back to memory, like what it was that I was like. It was around the same time as like Digimon and Pokemon was getting like a little bit bigger also. Yeah.
Well, Digimon and Pokemon, I'd say predate this. This was kind of, so Digimon and Pokemon, I'd give myself the ages of like 5 to 10, and then probably like when I was like 10 to 13-ish, there was the era of like Kirby Right Back at You, Sonic X, Mega Man Anti-Warrior. There were a lot of these gaming properties getting animated TV shows.
I gotta get my knowledge back into place. You got the years in line too, it seems like.
Yeah, because I mean, I think about like where I was in life with, and I mean, that's why certain games like Monster Hunter World or Destiny or like a lot of these different games, they kind of stand out as far as like where I was in life with them.
Where
like,
you heard about it, and that's me with comics, movies, TV shows, music, like all that is exactly the same way.
Right.
I'm gonna catch up to you though, dude. I give you my word. I'm gonna get that knowledge. I'm gonna gain it all.
Yeah, I mean, I any questions you have, I like to have the answers, and I like to be able to share my knowledge. Like, I didn't just accrue all this knowledge to just like sit on it and not use it and I know more about games than you.
You didn't get into gatekeeping?
No.
You didn't do that? No. I will say this though. There is a lot that's going on right now, and like I know like you hooked me on to Destiny 2 on Stadia.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten a controller yet. Like I tried looking for one, I couldn't find one with a cord attached to it. And the ones that I don't have a cord to it, it's like $60. I got Anton, I like you a lot, but I'm not spending $60 on a controller on a game that I'm probably gonna play one time and like not again after that. Well, no offense to you. I'm just
And I get that. That's why I'm trying to give you options. Like if you're gonna like invest, I don't want it to be an investment like a one and done kind of like. I want it to be like, and that's why I was like recommending the PlayStation controller, because that's a solid controller that's going to last you a long time.
Transition over,
and you'll be able to do a lot with it. Like, you asked me, like, does it have to be a PS5 controller? Does it have to be a Switch controller? I'm like, no, you could really. And if I come across any deals on them, DualShock 4, like you can get those relatively cheap. And same Bluetooth pairing of you being able to just pair it and use it for gaming, like that.
I only found it online though. Like only place I can find it is online, not inside of stores. So that's my downside.
Yeah, because and I know Walmart would be a great resource. Like Walmart will have controllers on the clearance section. So,
gotcha. Like I'm getting distracted. Sorry.
Hey, I like what he's doing. Like
it's interesting.
This lets me know that next time we do this, I could bring the video, like the assets that I have.
I was this close to bringing my tripod. I really was. I was this close to bringing my tripod. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll wait till next time to do that. I like that.
And I mean, like,
but I think is that the show? Is that all we got?
Well, I do want to talk about this Sony State of Play that happened the same day as the Nintendo Direct. We got some really big games out of that, like Tekken 8.
Give me, how about we take a break, and then we come right back, and we come right back to that. Is that...
Right, is that possible to just hit pause, take a break?
All right. We'll be right back, guys. And we are back. Sorry about the break. I had to take a potty break. But we got like a lot more PlayStation stuff to talk about, and some Street Fighter looking out for you guys. So like, let's start out with the PlayStation. What do you got for that?
Yeah, so the State of Play, they had, we were expecting a September event, which PlayStation's done the past couple of years of like a big showcase. But we got a State of Play focused on their Japanese partners. There were a few games that stood out in the showcase. They started off with Tekken 8, which is huge. Like, we didn't even get a Tekken 8 official announcement at EVO.
Yeah.
The fact that Tekken decided we're going to go with PlayStation, we're going to partner with them, we're going to get this going, and we're going to, like, get it moving. Like, it's interesting to see the moves that PlayStation's making. Because Microsoft's making the moves of, like, acquiring everybody and, like, buying their portfolio, but PlayStation, and I mean PlayStation is buying people as well, but PlayStation's doing a really good job as far as partnering with the people that it matters. Like Street Fighter 6 is coming to Xbox and PC, but people associate Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 and a lot of these games with PlayStation, and that's really where their strengths have lied for the last few years, like is having third-party games that people associate with PlayStation, even if they're available everywhere, because that will attract your audience primarily on PlayStation.
So I got a list of the things that are coming out right now. Like you talking with something sounds interesting. We got Project E being renamed to Stellar Blade.
Yes. Let's go.
Let's go with that? Oh, yeah. Right off the bat. All right.
I mean, you just have to come out with the big guns. It's really so Project Eve. They've shown it a couple times before with they've shown like I think the game was announced at a State of Play, so it's always been like heavily associated with PlayStation, and they just announced that it's a PlayStation exclusive. It gives me Nier vibes. It gives me Bayonetta vibes. Yeah. It gives me like a lot of these games that I'm really into. Like Stellar Blade definitely has those vibes in spades, and so
definitely goes back into what you were just talking about, how like PlayStation acquiring all these things and like putting their names on certain things with different companies and putting it on their brand, which was kind of like frowned upon like a couple years ago, right? Like them being proprietary to one.
It depends on who you talk to, because PlayStation committed one of the things that I never thought we'd see again in gaming with Hogwarts Legacy. They have it where there's a PlayStation exclusive quest. In a game that's everywhere, in Hogwarts Legacy, there is a quest that you can only play on PlayStation.
People are going to be talking about that. People are going to be talking about that.
The thing is, I don't think Hogwarts Legacy is going to do well, because Hogwarts Legacy, like with the J.K. Rowling stuff, like it's been kind
tainted.
of like the
she won't shut the fuck up.
Right.
she just needs to stop talking.
And she's doubling down. That's the thing. She's
tripling, quad. Yeah, dude, making a book about it. Like, dude, you gotta stop your turf stuff, man.
Right.
Jeez.
So, like, when you're associated with a name like that, I don't think you got the like. The game looks good. The game looks like completely, totally like a fun video game.
All right.
Like, as far as the game on its own merits, looks good. Wasn't a day one purchase for me, but then again, I'm not the Harry Potter guy.
Right.
I'm the Final Fantasy and the Monster Hunter guy.
Right.
And best believe, like...
I just saw the Stellar Blade trailer. Oh my goodness, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen that game in a way that I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that.
Right.
Like, it's going to be cheesy. It's going to be corny. It's going to be...
going to be pretty while you're doing it, though.
Right. And it's going to be super fun.
I'm looking at the Hogwarts Legacy game.
Yeah.
This graphics is insane.
Oh, yeah. Like, when I say, if it were just a game on its own merits, it would be a completely different story. But because it's tied to the Harry Potter IP, like, it's a completely different ball of wax you're dealing with.
There are those, like, who like, separate the art from the artist, and like they still take part in all this. Like, and like I get it. Like I don't do it myself, but like I get it. And like, for those who like it, they're gonna get some fun from this.
That's the thing. Like, not many brands that like I associate myself with have anybody out there being like anti-trans. Mm-hmm. Fortunately for me,
thank goodness, right?
Right. But like, if the Pokemon company tomorrow were to come out with a super transphobic thing, I'd have to have that fight within myself of like, because I mean, Japanese games, as far as representation with like LGBT issues in general, like Japanese titles aren't the best at handling that kind of subject matter.
They just passed a law in Japan, like I think a couple months ago, like that there's no more same-sex marriages in Japan. So yeah, and Nintendo was very upset about that. Nintendo was very vocal about that.
And so, like, for the most part, like a lot of these things, IPs that like you're a big Batman guy, I'm a big Final Fantasy guy, and like luckily Final Fantasy, like there have been some like kind of questionable things as far as content, and it's just because of difference in culture.
Race-wise, usually, but yeah.
Well, yeah, race and sexual preference, and like, I will say, like, I'm a huge fan of Japanese culture. Like, I'm highly influenced by Japanese media, but like at the same time, as a person of color in America, looking at some of the exact same content. Like, Black Frieza was a thing that just happened. And it had to go from, like, oh, it's just, like, this actual thing that, like, Akira Toriyama, who wasn't thinking in a racist way in developing a character like Black Frieza. The layers of translation and like transfer of information and like the way people take that, because a lot of times there are things that like
he's one of the biggest white supremacist characters like ever created in Japan. Like so, yeah, like it's really I hate seeing him like be the Black Frieza, and like considering what Toriyama did with Mr. Popo, who thank goodness only made one appearance in Super. Like yeah. You gotta be kidding me. But one of the big standouts for me when it came to this, besides like the VR 2, I still think that's the future of gaming, is Yakuza 8.
Yes. Well, Yakuza 8 we didn't actually get. The Yakuza series is changing its name to Like a Dragon, which their developer is Ryoga Gotoku. Right. Which literally translates to Like a Dragon. So, and you know, like, Yakuza is kind of one of those topics that's taboo in Japan, and they've actually like all their games have had different titles in Japan than they've had here. It's kind of like the Resident Evil Biohazard or Mega Man Rockman. Like Capcom dealt with it a lot, where they had a series that was in North America and in Japan and had two different like naming conventions. So like Yakuza Like a Dragon, which was like Yakuza 7, was called Like a Dragon, Whereabouts of Darkness and Light in Japan. So like the naming convention was very different, and now like Yakuza used to be a really small niche thing, but like I played Like a Dragon. That was my first Yakuza game. I know Yakuza has gotten a lot bigger in the West.
Dreamcast, right? That's where it started.
No, PS2.
Was it PS2? Sir?
Yeah, PS2.
Still thought it was Dreamcast.
Shenmue is what you're thinking.
That's what I'm thinking of. You're absolutely right. That's exactly it.
You're thinking Shenmue, but and I mean Shenmue kind of. These are very different from Shenmue.
We got a trailer going on in the background.
So this is
we're getting a little distracted from it. But
this is a trailer. This is a trailer for Like a Dragon Ishin, which was Yakuza Ishin in Japan that never came west. They're remaking it on the Dragon engine, which is their proprietary tools that they've been using recently.
It looks like a Ghost of Tsushima, kind of like high octane.
Well,
goes like Red Dead Redemption type situation.
It's during Japanese colonialism, so that's
during the Civil War, 19th century, right?
Not the Civil War. This is when like outside forces started.
It was their Civil War. They had a Civil War. Like I did an article about this before I did all this.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I haven't played the game because, like I said, it hasn't been out in the West. So, but it's actually really interesting. They showed Like a Dragon Ishin and they showed Rise of the Ronin, and both of those are games set in feudal Japan and kind of have that samurai Ronin ninja aesthetic, and that's why I feel like the PlayStation presentation was really strong for like people like me, because outside of like the VR games, neither of the VR games they showed were particularly interesting to me.
I know.
But Like a Dragon Ishin, and then Rise of the Ronin, and then Stellar Blade and Tekken 8. Like just having like that lineup of games, it wasn't as long as the Nintendo Direct. It didn't have as much information as the Nintendo Direct, but as far as like the content they actually showed, they like PlayStation for me personally, and that's why I'm more on the Sony side, but there have been times I've been on the Xbox side. There have been times that I've been on the Nintendo side, but the reason I am really into the PlayStation side is because they can show me things like what they showed during this State of Play, and that justify my purchase of my PlayStation 5.
They're more entertaining. They're more interesting. They got more vibrancy when it comes to their games. Like I get what you're trying to say. I feel like you're straddling the fence when it comes to this, but like PlayStation just does better. Like, I just hate to say it.
Well, not really. When I say stuff like that, I'm called a PlayStation fanboy. So like the reason I kind of have to have that barrier of like, yes, I'm a PlayStation fan. Like I'm primarily with PlayStation, but I also understand when PlayStation makes a bad decision,
you call it out.
And I'll say it's a bad decision. And a lot of times the problem, especially recently, that we've been dealing with is like with this mergers and acquisitions kind of landscape we're in, is that everybody's buying stuff up.
Right.
Tencent's coming in and Chinese money's flying everywhere.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is coming in and Saudi money's everywhere.
They're buying golf right now. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and so like all in the gaming space, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions and consolidation, which is not good for the industry growing and expanding. And like I try and get that across to people, but then this in the same conversation, someone will say, "Oh, I'm just a Sony fanboy," when Sony buys Bungie. But I'm like, that is like minor compared to Microsoft buying Bethesda. We're playing in two different leagues.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
you are.
It's the difference between throwing a baby in a kiddie pool and throwing a baby into the Atlantic. Like. It's levels to this.
Hey man, Radic, in the future, make sure you get this dude tons of White Claws when we do a show, because like when he got some booze inside of him, he is something entirely different.
Well, I mean, it's actually so the White Claw thing. Like that's White Claw. We were drinking Tecates. We were drinking cheap Mexican beers.
Okay.
We were recording Chessy Controller in person, and we drew like 40s and Miller High Life, just like. The cheapest alcohol you could consume. We were like, because it's like a good lubricant as far as like conversationalism.
Gotcha.
And like, that is one of the strong points in my opinion about Chessy Controller is like, especially when we're in person, we can sit down together, we can drink, we can have that conversation. And so that's, ooh, let's make sure we're still going. Make sure
we are still recording.
Okay.
Oh, I'm good.
But yeah,
I've been doing this for too long. I can do this like all day.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like some of the podcasters that I've looked up to, they're like, you could wake me up and put a microphone and camera in my face, and I can just go
right at it.
I've gotten like, what's up, everybody? Just like
let's get to it. Like
hit the ground running. Like
alcohol actually like is bad for the show for me usually. So I will start saying things that is not probably. That's probably not the nicest thing to say. I can be mean. I'm from Atlanta, man. I can be mean sometimes. So, like, you guys know folks in Atlanta, I'm a Grady baby. And, like, you know, if it gets too bad, like, you will hear it. So,
you're a Grady baby before the turn. Like, don't disparage yourself like that.
Like it's gotten kind of negative as of late. But, yeah,
well,
you feel a sense of pride attached.
The reason is because in the 90s, when Grady was short-staffed, like, the entire state of Georgia was just kind of short-handed as far as medical workers. And so, like, the term Grady baby now means that you were born like in the mid-90s and just like kind of it was like a rush job but yeah, so I wouldn't claim that moniker if I were you.
I'm claiming it because like it was a positive term before it turned negative. It most definitely was. Like Grady was the hospital for like, you know, fertile health and like, you know, having kids before Emory showed up. And then, like, Grady turned into an emergency hospital. And, like, you got a negative name attached to it. So,
yeah,
you know.
I've seen some things at Grady.
That's right. You work in the field, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'm trying to get away from the field because it is not where
I'm trying to do this.
Right, yeah.
But you want to talk about Street Fighter also, right?
Yeah, Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
So... Street Fighter 6 was announced, I want to say during EVO, but it might have been a little earlier than EVO.
I know they talked about it a little bit earlier. I saw a trailer for it recently, yeah. Yeah,
well, we got a blowout for Tokyo Game Show. Capcom was like, we're coming with our big guns, showed the entire roster, showed the training mode, blew out like the story mode, the battle hub. Like this game, I was actually playing Street Fighter 5 the other night because... just the hype for Street Fighter 6 is so high with
preparation.
I mean, the last character that they put out on Street Fighter 5, Luke, they announced him as this is going to be your guide for Street Fighter 6. This is like a guide of what to expect.
Move over, Ryu. All right.
Well, I mean, Ryu, so... we knew Ryu, Chun-Li, like, we knew Ken, like, we knew a lot of these characters are coming back. But Luke is, like, the new face to kind of,
revamp everything? Kind of like a new look?
Well, I mean, we've kind of always had, like, for every new fighting game, there's a character that is, like, that new character that kind of changes up. And that's Luke on screen right now.
Is it?
Yeah,
Fucking
the boxer.
Absolutely gorgeous. Good God. You can create your own character now, too?
Yeah.
Nice.
The story mode is you creating your character and learning from the different characters in Street Fighter to, like, build out your move set.
Oh, so it's like NCAA. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean... the customization looks like it looks kind of, if you're looking at this not focusing on the fighting game community,
okay,
for me as somebody who I was just on Street Fighter V playing ranked matches the other night, I know I'm not the best fighting games player, but the FGC has always been somewhere that's been inclusive of men of color, like, for years now.
Yeah.
And so, like, it feels like not only are their games just really high quality and they're getting better and better as time goes on, we also have the fact that this is a community that, like, there aren't a lot of things that, like, there aren't a lot of communities, especially online, that embrace black men and, like, want black men to improve themselves and get better at something and hone a craft. And fighting games, in my opinion, is one of the things that you're supported, you're encouraged. It's a really welcoming and inclusive community. Like, there's the Smash side that may or may not shower. I'm really not gonna
that's not
belabor on that point.
That's not for me to get into. But that is the kind of comments I would probably make if I was had some alcohol inside of me. But I get you. Because those guys are the ones who pay my bills. So yeah. But I will say, like, I see this game, I see it going on. Like, it looks like it has like a side-scrolling fight to it. Also, it's like a what do I put this? Like a Double Dragon. Streets of Rage kind of feel? That's
how Street Fighter 1 was. Like, Street Fighter 1, pre it being a fighting game, was kind of a brawler. Like, kind of a, like, side-scrolling action brawler. And I mean, as far as, like, the in-game fighting, like, I know that they're going to have rollback and they're going to have crossplay, and those are two things that, like, for a fighting game to get...
You need now.
Fucking massive.
Yeah.
Like, no other game has come out with crossplay and rollback. Something like, I don't think any fighting game has come out. Well, Street Fighter V came out with crossplay between PC and PlayStation, but this is kind of just opening it up, because if you were a fighting game fan and you were on Xbox, you were on your own.
Yeah.
Now with this, I know some of the most hardcore fighting game players I know just prefer Xbox. Like, there's this one guy, Aber, who he just buys fight sticks, like, works on fight sticks, like, and is a solid player. Dude is just amazing. But he is an Xbox guy, and so when Tekken 7 comes out, and Tekken 7's still alive on PlayStation, it's dead on Xbox. So he doesn't have the community around him to, like, foster him getting better at that game. But now with Street Fighter having crossplay, and rollback just makes online fighting games better. Like, if you're not familiar with rollback, there are two types of netcode: delay-based and rollback. Delay-based, if you're playing online and you have a bad connection, it just makes the game worse as you go. Rollback takes into account network lag and input lag and kind of matches up your online fighting experience in a way. Like, and this is super simplifying it. If you're interested, just look up a video on rollback netcode. There are YouTube videos that will explain it way better than I ever will. But, so like Guilty Gear came out with rollback. And what rollback netcode does is, like I said, it takes into account input lag, network lag, and you can have a bad connection. And that's why games like Skullgirls and them fighting herds that have had rollback netcode for a long time have alive communities. And that's now fighting game developers are kind of banking on
That's interesting.
Putting this, because it's way... Arc System Works, they've been really good as far as going back and like adding rollback to their games. But if a game comes out with rollback from the beginning, and they built the game with rollback in mind, like they did with Guilty Gear, like they're doing with Street Fighter, which hopefully they do with Tekken. We're still not 100% sure. Like Tekken, we've just seen some good-looking gameplay. We haven't seen, like, they haven't had the conversation of, oh, this is full crossplay, oh, this is rollback. We don't have any details like that about Tekken yet, which is unfortunate, but Tekken's a little bit further out than Street Fighter. Right. I see Street Fighter in the first half of next year, Tekken in the second half, and then we have Project L, the Riot fighting game. We have that coming supposedly next year as well.
And on the TV side, they're doing a good job of hyping up the Tekken fans for it too, with Bloodlines.
Yeah. Like it was we're kind of in a good space for Tekken because Tekken's done. Tekken 7 is done. We now know Tekken 8's coming.
It's coming. Yeah.
We had Tekken Bloodlines, which is introducing it to a lot of like people who aren't familiar with it.
It's essentially Tekken 3, though, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, for people who never played Tekken 3, knowing that story in particular,
right.
And I mean,
it was an interesting watch.
Yeah, and they left it's Tekken, so we know that there are 6 games, about to be 7 games outside of Tekken 3, so they left the door open for Tekken Bloodlines, like considering like the bloodline, the Mishima bloodline,
right.
is one of the core things of the Tekken series. They really could, like, they could do Tekken Bloodline Season 2 and do Tekken 4 and, like, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, they really could keep it going.
And Netflix need all the animation they can get because, like, that's what they're...
But they're cutting back on animation.
That's the weird thing, isn't it?
Problem.
Isn't that
like,
weird? They're cutting back animation, but, like, you still got a lot of animation coming out. I don't get that.
A lot of the things, especially with Netflix, like, I go to Netflix for animation.
Yeah.
Period. Like, there are very few live action things I go there for. Like, if I'm watching TV, like, watching TV is my least favorite way of consuming content. I'd rather play a game, rather listen to some music, I'd rather watch a movie.
This is why we're friends. What he just said. This is why we're friends. This is because of that. I'd much rather watch TV than play video games. I'm just saying, man. Like, I know this is a video game podcast. I know. I got it. I'm just saying. I'd much rather watch TV show than play a video game.
Right. But for me, like, Arcane was a fun watch because...
predictable, but fun. It was the story was so straight to the point that you just, if you ever watched a movie before, you knew exactly what was going to happen.
Right. And but, I mean, for me, it was, like, the actual visuals. Like, we were talking about Edge Runners. We were talking about Edge Runners a little while ago, and you were super cool on it. And I was like, no, this is one that needs to be on your radar.
You called it.
The next one.
Yeah, I gotta watch that too. You called it. You said like, hey, you gotta watch this. Like the animation may look a little weird, but you gotta check it out. And I'm hooked, dude. Yes. Like I'm pacing myself with this because that's how good it is.
Like that's the thing. I wanted to be done by today so I could talk about it.
But no, I'm on episode 7 still.
I'm on 5, so like it's just like I gotta pace myself. I gotta savor the meal.
Agreed.
And Studio Trigger, like you didn't know, but now you know.
It's on my radar now.
Next time you see Studio Trigger is doing an anime or something, you're gonna pay attention. So yeah. I mean, we're already starting to see the fruits of this podcast. Like,
yeah, it's a very good anime. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. The tones inside of this, man, it's so fucking dark.
Right. The thing is, and that's something like when I was talking about it on the podcast, I didn't really get an opportunity to sell. Like, you said you were expecting it to be dark, gritty.
It's so pretty.
Right. Well, I mean, you thought with the cyberpunk genre that it was going to be darker and heavier like it is, but the color and like the hope and the vision, like that was the side that I kind of was trying to like push you more because you see it's a good mix of both. Like they really take the themes and they take the material they have to work with.
The lovely actions, man. Like, even the nudity and the sex is I wouldn't say it's in bad taste, but like you can accept it when you see it.
Right? Yeah. Well, and I mean because it's handled tastefully and it's handled in context. It's not just fucking for fucking sake.
Exactly. Which I can't like that 90s style of just like raw dog, just a raw like even this scene right here, like it's there, but like it's the nature of the world.
Right.
It's insane, man. It's scary. I hope like our lives will turn into that. But like it really is. I really hope it doesn't. I really hope it is. But it's not.
Realized at some point while watching this that Cyberpunk is a European commentary on American society. Because
that's how I see Judge Dredd.
CD Projekt Red is Polish. And so for a Polish studio to look at the American health system and look at like American society and like the direction we're going, and for this to be their commentary on that, like you really see a lot of like.
I'm glad it's out. I'm glad it's here because like I thought the same thing with Judge Dredd, like Megalo City, like every big capital city is gonna have like a whole like sky tower of people just living in these blocks, homes, and everything else is a nuclear wasteland. So yeah, no, I hear you completely.
But some of the things I recognize from the game, this makes me want to go back and play the game because you can get the character's jacket, you can get one of the shotguns that I haven't seen featured prominently yet, but. Like when they were talking about Cyberpunk coming out, because Cyberpunk was announced in like 2011. Yeah. Like the initial trailer, and like Cyberpunk was one of those games that was gestating for just so long that when it finally came out, it was a big deal and it was kind of a disappointment. But if you can set all of that aside, they talked about Night City being a character, and it's not often that a setting is a character. In the way that Gotham,
like Gotham is,
Gotham
I was just gonna say, not since Gotham has like I've really seen like a city like this as a real character, and like in this city if this city has a lot of emotion to it, it will fuck you up in a heartbeat.
And I mean, Radic plays Monster Hunter with me. Like the villages in Monster Hunter are characters. Like that's part of the world building. Like you can build world building and like set up as far as background for particular characters, or you could do world building by setting up a backstory of your setting, and I think that's just a really good thing that they did with Night City. And so with this not involving any of the characters or storylines or anything from the game itself, having some of the factions, having some of the like interesting things from the game, like this made Night City way more interesting to me to go play the game. Yeah.
It also made like the aesthetics, like the characters, the interactions. It also made that a lot more interesting too. Yeah. And I will say this: the beautiful part about this is I haven't heard one bigot say one word about this. So for that fact alone, it has been a bliss to watch this show. Like it's hard to watch Ring of Power. It's hard to watch House of Dragons sometimes because like the bigots, they be creeping in your ear. But like this here is good.
House of Dragons, I kind of have the problem. I'm enjoying House of Dragons. Don't get me wrong. One of the reasons I don't like watching live action TV as much as I prefer animation is because I don't need rape in my shows. I don't need incest in my shows. I don't need brutalization of women in my shows. These are things that I'm aware they're realities that happen out there, but also it's not the way I lead my life. And there's a degree of separation when it's animation.
I get that too.
But a lot of shows for a long time really leaned on trauma.
Yeah.
As the way, the gateway into the show. And there are anime out there that I'm aware are very depressing, and I will stay away.
Heavily avoid. Agreed.
Right, and so that was my problem for a long time with live action TV, because Bates Motel,
thank you.
Right.
No, thank you.
Starts off with a guy having to see his mother get raped.
No, thank you. That was I watched one of them, so I'm done. I don't need this in my life. Thanks A&E or AMC, whatever company made this. I'm good. I've closed it. I'm all yours.
Right.
Hell no.
Can have that.
I'm dead ass serious. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I'm enjoying Game of Thrones Ring of Power because I enjoy the world. King's Landing is a character as a setting. Yeah. There's a lot of that in the show. But at the same time, I don't need an incest scene
in
the middle of the night. I'm not trying to sit with my wife, who is not my sister.
Because I wasn't even sleeping tonight. So there you go. Hey, Nightmares. How you doing?
Oh man.
But This has been a good show.
Yeah.
Talked about a lot. It's still gonna be called Steam because like that is like that. That's still the show. That's still the show.
Like anytime we're recording in person, I'll bring this. I know you're gonna have to jet soon after we finish.
Yeah.
But I put multiverse.
I saw it.
I'm gonna get you to play this game. Batman's in the free rotation right now. Like I was gonna let you play some multiverses as Batman.
I've gone to Battle and Brew. I've gone like to that controller place that I sent you a picture of. Yeah. The controller place. I've gone to the lag also. Every place that I go to that games has this game attached to it, but I never get a chance to play it. So like, yeah.
Right, and I went out of my way last night to download it onto my Steam Deck because I'm like, I'm
the target audience. I'm the target audience for this. I can't even play it. But this has been good, Anton. Let people know where they can find you, man.
People can find me around the internet, ChessyControllerPodcast.com. On Twitter, Anton Sixxx with 3 X's. Instagram, Anton 6 with 2 X's. Yeah.
And I am D of FTO Nerd Talk, and I gotta say that he didn't say it in the beginning of the episode this time, so that's something to take note of. He was that hyped about this team that he did not even talk about where he's from in the beginning of the episode. So just keep that in mind, everybody.
No, I said Chessy Controller Podcast.
Oh, did you? Did I miss it?
I got it in there.
Okay, all right.
We're a package deal. You get Anton Sixxx, you get the Chessy Controller.
You gotta get the Chessy Controller. All right, until next time, you guys take it easy.
And keep it cheesy.
Hey guys, D here of FTO Nerd Talk. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends about FTO Nerd Talk. Got a lot of different shows for all of you. Make sure you tune in every week for a brand new episode. Take it easy.